Good, thank you. Have a seat, so happy new season.
Thank you very much, yes.
Okay, Gary, do you want to start?
There's only team news, right?
No, we don't have any problems other than the ones we've been sort of wrestling with for a while now with Mamadou and James Tompkins. So basically, apart from that, we're okay.
Any updates on those two when you might
Well, they're working at it. No, not really. It's difficult to put a time scale on it, but they're both getting closer. There's no doubt about that, and they're working hard every day. But I think the doctors will be very upset with me if I start talking about time scales. They'll be rapping my knuckles for me.
Because I think Mel in particular has been making some positive noises on social media, which we'll talk about more generally later.
Yeah, well, I don't pay a lot of attention to those messages. I pay more attention to what I see here. He hasn't trained with us. He trained with us for a while and then felt his knee again, and he hasn't trained with us now for the last 2 weeks, and he still trains with the physio aside from the first team group. So really, until he gets back into training with us and starts to work again this fitness program, because unfortunately, once again, well, he and James Tompkins, they're going to really miss a pre-season, because their pre-season has been spent in the medical room and training alone with these sports science people.
Have you seen what you want to see on the training pitch this week to suggest that last week's performance was a one-off?
Yes, absolutely. It wasn't. You know, no one has tried to disguise the fact that we weren't happy with the performance. And we don't want to take any away from Sheffield United, who of course gave a very good performance, but we don't want to take anything away from them by just suggesting we were bad and they weren't good. But we weren't at all happy with our performance, but I'm 100% certain the players are as disappointed and angry about the performance as I am, and that they'll be trying very hard to put that right.
Is Old Trafford the place, though, that you really want to go to try and put up that performance right?
I don't know. I mean, Old Trafford, for teams like ourselves, and I've worked with teams like Fulham and West Brom as well, who are in a similar position. Old Trafford's always been a very daunting place to go if you need a result, and unfortunately, if I look back at my record at Old Trafford, it doesn't really measure up to any high degree of scrutiny. But that's because they are a top team, a very top club. They really have the ability, if you like, to sign players and that we will never have. So I think, like all clubs, when you go to Old Trafford, it's an opportunity. It's a great occasion, because that's a place every footballer wants to play. You know, every footballer in the world would like to say, I played at Old Trafford. So in that respect, it's a great occasion. If you're saying there, this is a must-win game, how do you feel? Then it's not quite so good, because it's not going to be easy to make that a must-win game.
Obviously, it was a bit of a lesson in the end, the result, certainly, for Chelsea last game at Old Trafford. But many people say that they actually played all right for large parts of the game.
I agree. I saw the game, of course, and in particular, their first half performance was looking very good, and they could quite easily have been in the lead until the penalty situation. But of course, in the second half, you saw how good Manchester United can be, and I watched the game against Wolves also, and I thought, in particular the first half, but even swathes of the second half, they played extremely well. They've had a real good start to the season, and their new players are showing, why they've been bought and why the club and the manager, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, has decided to invest money in them.
Feel Aaron's fitted in well already?
I thought he was excellent. Yeah, I think he's fitted in very well. I thought his performance, in particular against Wolves, was outstanding, and we don't need reminding of how good he is, because we were lucky enough to benefit from him being so good for a year and a half here before he left us.
Will a full, noisy Theatre of Dreams be a good place to give an experienced player like Gary Cahill his debut?
Any place is a good place to give an experienced and good player like Gary Cahill his debut, but at the moment I haven't fully decided what our team lineup should be, and certainly it's not something I would want to divulge at the moment. Not because I'm suggesting that Manchester United are quaking in their boots, wondering what sort of team we're going to play, but just because I don't like to give out teams certainly before I've spoken to the players, and the players at the moment have got no idea what the team is.
A lot was said before the transfer window, during the transfer window, and now by me since the transfer window about what looks like a lack of goals in the club. It's proving to be the case in the opening 2 games.
It's been the case for a long time, and it's obviously a problem, or certainly a situation that we're always conscious of, and until we can score goals we're not going to win matches. That's just a very obvious statement of fact. So we need to get better at scoring goals. We need our players who play in the front positions to start scoring some goals for us, but the fact is they're very conscious of it, and I can't ask more from those guys in training, and I can't ask more from them in terms of their attitude and their desire to score goals. Now we just got to find a way of getting those goals against top class opponents like the ones we find every week in the Premier League.
I know you're not going to really pay any attention or respond to press speculation, but as it's out there, I'll put it to you, one page suggesting that there's negotiations ongoing with Christian about either extending his contract or a new contract. Can you say anything about that?
Only what you've just said. I believe negotiations are taking place. James Tompkins comes into that category as well, certainly, but I can't tell you any more how far advanced those negotiations are, because they're being handled, of course, by our chairman and by our sporting director, Doug Freeman.
But as a manager of the team, that would be something that you would welcome?
It's up to the club. The club, when players get into the last year of their contract, they find themselves in a difficult situation, because players in the last year of their contract can leave free of charge. So these are club matters, really. And if Christian signs a new contract, I should be happy for him, and I should be happy to continue working with him.
What have you had a VAR so far? I know your manager went down and had a look. I went yesterday, actually. It's very impressive, the setup they've got there. Is it working out about as you expected?
No, I was under the impression, especially when we had people talking to us about it when the Premier League came to the meeting, and in particular last season when we were talking about introducing it, I was under the impression that it was going to be only used really for very clear and obvious errors where the referee has made a clear mistake. Now it seems to me that we are with a fine-tooth comb trying to work out if someone's arm is actually onside or offside, so that surprised me. I must say, every goal being analysed, where quite honestly, when the goal is scored, I'm pretty sure that there are many people like me and people who've been involved in football a long time who don't imagine there could be anything wrong, only to find out when you take the technology to the degree that we take the technology, that in actual fact, if you look closely, this player's arm is actually a centimetre or so offside. I always got the impression you couldn't score goals with your arm or your hand anyway, so I'm always a bit sceptical about someone's arm being in an offside position which disallows a goal. So I don't think at the moment that if you speak to people like myself and other managers that we're going to be wholeheartedly supportive of what we've seen so far, but we are wholeheartedly supportive, of course, of injustice being corrected, where a clear mistake has been made that unfortunately hasn't been picked up by the people. But I think in time, I'd like to think anyway, that maybe we'll have a slightly larger margin of tolerance, and that when the VAR people look themselves and they see if we flag this up, we're going to be discussing centimetres, that they'll just say to the ref, you didn't see anything, so let's get on with it. But who knows? It's a fact of life. I've seen very good answers to your questions from the Guardiolas and the Pochettinos of the world who found themselves in losing goals or getting goals that way, and they've been unbelievably sanguine about the whole affair. So there's no reason for me to be anything less than sanguine either. But if you're asking my opinion as a football lover, that's where I am at this moment in time.
I don't know what your Twitter handle is, Roy, but
No, I don't know myself.
what's your view on social media? And whether or not football should boycott it just for a while until they get their act in order?
Well, once again, I think we've got measures in place which are important so the players can report things. But these are questions when they come to people like myself who haven't not brought up in the Twitter generation. Twitter came well into my lifetime. I think you'll find most of us will find it hard to embrace, if you like, some of the things that go on there. But once again, we're talking about something which is now very much a fact of life. It's very much a part of the life of 20-year-olds who, for the last 10 or 15 years have been absolutely immersed in Facebook and Twitter and WhatsApp and all of these type of things, Snapchat. The fact that I don't have to get involved in it personally is a good thing for me, I think, but I am involved in it whether I like it or not, because all the players I work with, they're very much involved and it does affect them. So when they're being abused online or where people are writing in and saying things that affect their mental health or their attitude towards games, of course it's something which unfortunately rebounds very, very firmly onto me. But I don't know as yet, no one's told me yet, if you do this, you can make a big difference to what's happening there. And I would welcome someone saying to me, look, why don't you do this, and this will actually not take away necessarily some of the things that you're finding, but at least it will lessen it, it will diminish some of the worst excesses. I would be very happy to do it, but unfortunately no one in the last 4 or 5 years has been able to do that, so I'll have to wait and see. Whether football should do something, that'll be up to the authorities, and I'm pretty certain that whatever they decide to do, they'll have my backing.
Just finally quickly on that, you wouldn't go so far as a manager to say to your players you're banned from social media?
Can you do that? I mean, can you? I suppose one could. I mean, draconian measures never work, so that would only, that's stopping people from doing things they really want to do and imposing. You're asking for more problems, I think, than you're going to solve. I think we constantly preach to our players, and the club constantly preaches to our players not to make major errors, but you told me today about a story that one of our players has supposedly put something out on Twitter which wasn't put out by him at all. It was put out by his agent or someone he knows. So where do you go from there? If you call the player in and say, this is ridiculous what you've done, you're wrong, and he says, well, it wasn't me, I didn't do it, this was somebody else, where do you go from there? I mean, it's a difficult one.
Thanks, Gary. Can you pass the mic? Thank you.
Thanks, Roy.
Pleasure.
This is Will from PLP.
Well, is this a far more dangerous Manchester United compared to last season?
No, we played them last season. I think it was about Ulla's second or third game. They came here. They were really very, very good. At that stage, I think he'd just taken over, and the team was in fine form, and they were really flying, and they were playing just like they're playing at the moment. You're actually referring perhaps to the fact there was a tail off towards the end of the season where they dropped a few points. But I wasn't involved in games against Manchester United then. The game I was involved in, they were every bit as quick to the ball, as aggressive, as sharp in their play as I've seen them in the opening 2 games.
Is proving people wrong a big thing for you, Roy?
In what respect?
In the sense that I know you don't pay attention to what's said in terms of you guys might have your struggles this season and so on, but is that still a motivation for you?
We have that every season, don't we? Basically, whether we start, however we start. As it happens, I don't think we've ever started well, so I suppose I can't really refer to that. It's always been a bad start, but the fact is every season we have to accept that we're not going to be one of the teams that people are talking about to take the Premier League or to set the Premier League alight. We're going to be one of the teams that people are going to bracket with teams that will have to work very hard if they want to stay in the league, and we fully accept that and even embrace that, because we know that too. We think, that is the players and I in particular, that we've done okay these last couple of seasons in getting where we are and doing what we've done, but we don't expect people suddenly then to start elevating us to another platform. We know every season starts and you've got to do it all over again, and if we ever lose sight of the fact that every game for us is going to be a real battle and something where we're going to be tested to the limits of our ability, then we're going to be making a huge mistake, and none of us, I think, are prepared to allow that to happen. And as the season is now wearing on, at least the squad of players that I was hoping to see and be able to use for this battle, they are there for me to use. You know, in the pre-season matches and even going into the first game, we were still very limited as to the players I could call upon.
But it's become a common theme, isn't it, with people tipping you for trouble perhaps, and then look where you end up, 12th, 11th, right up at the end of the table. And you mentioned the words elevation to another platform. The fact that you have finished 12th last season, 11th the season before, is 10th a realistic ambition for you, the top 10?
Well, I don't know that we need to set those sort of ambitions. If you're saying to me, did you think it's a possibility you could do that? You know, I would obviously say yes, of course, because we've almost done it in the last 2 years. But on both occasions, it's been because we've had a very good end to the season. You know, a long period of time before we had that surge which lifted us up to that position, we were actually much closer, looking over our shoulder at relegation. So I don't know at the moment, unless we can really solve our problems up front and start banging goals left, right and centre, that we can actually honestly say, no problem, you know, we're going to be miles away from any danger. I think we've got to accept that danger could possibly be there, and we've got to work hard as a team and work hard as a club to make certain that, you know, we put things right and we solve and improve in our problem areas. But we're doing that. But then the trouble is, so are the other 19 teams in the league. That's the only problem. It'd be nice if we were doing it and they weren't.
And just finally for me, are we ever going to see, Gary mentioned there about social media, we're never going to see Mr. Hodgson on Instagram or Snapchat with the bunny ears and the dog face and the grandkids?
Well, I don't know enough about, you know, what really goes on there. I mean, all I can understand is, of course, that when you open an account, there you are at the mercy of people who want to contact you and say things to you and about you. Now that can sometimes, I guess, be a very positive thing, but I'm also aware that it could be very negative, and I don't honestly feel that I need either of those two things, particularly in my life. And the thing that would concern me a little bit is that I remember talking to Fernando Torres at Liverpool about there, and he told me that there were about 20 Fernando Torreses out there. And that would really concern me. You know, how do you know who you're speaking to? And as I say, you'd have to give me a complete lesson in that, but hearing that was enough to put me off, because I'd have been worried that suddenly there was a lot of people saying things in my name which had nothing to do with me because it wasn't my account.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's it. Great, that ends the broadcast section. Thank you.